Good afternoon. This will be the July 20th, 2023 post-commission informal hearings. And I would like to ask Director Bello to call the roll.
Marco Gilliam. Have a surrender office carpenter.
Motion to approve. I did, Chairman Parton.
All right, we have a motion and a second.
All in favor of the motion indicate by saying aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Hearing none, motion carries. For those of you that will be speaking today, I always make this little caveat. We have your case file here in front of us. This is kind of like a preliminary hearing. It's kind of the Cliff Note version. We'll save if we get into any major details and real deep facts other than the questions that this committee may ask of you or the department, then we can get into that. Other than that, the departments that are coming up and presenting a case or whoever may be representing, if you can just kind of give us a synopsis because we have what you've submitted. So first up be the Tennessee Department of Safety Highway Patrol. Sammy Ray Allen, would the Highway Patrol come forward, please? Thank you. Can you identify yourself for the record, please?
Yes, sir. Sergeant Chad Smith with the Department of Safety Homeland.
Thank you, Sergeant Smith. If you would go ahead with your presentation.
On March 1st, 2021, troopers
Thank you. And is that is he under court probation or something now?
Don't know the results. I know he played guilty, but I don't know.
Thank you, Sergeant. Members of the board, do you have any questions for the sergeant? Thank you, sir. Is Mr. Allen here today? Okay.
I believe I believe Mr. Allen did communicate to our investigators that he did not plan on appearing.
Okay.
Commissioner Wright.
You recognize Commissioner Wright.
I'll make a motion for decertification due to resignation, due
I have a motion on the floor for decertification. Do I hear a second?
Second.
Have a second by Commissioner Isbell. Any discussion on the motion?
You might just note that this is a default order.
In the discussion, Madam Recorder, this would be a default order. Any other discussion on the motion? Hearing none, all in favor of the motion indicate by saying aye. Aye. Opposed? Hearing none, the motion carries. Thank you. Next up, Suwannee University of the South, Suwannee Police Department, Tony Gillum. Is there any representatives of the University Police from Suwannee here today? Okay, and I can't remember all the people that were here or not here, but it's Tony Marco here. Okay, nobody's present. I'll make a motion to approve default. Have a second. Wagner, any discussion on the motion?
just a question to the assistant director, make sure we got notification.
Yes, sir. He was notified.
Have proper notification. Any other discussion on the motion? Hearing none, all in favor of the motion indicate by saying aye. Aye. Opposed? Hearing none, the motion carries. Middleton Police Department. Any representatives of Middleton Police Department here? Could you come forward, sir? Thank you. You identify yourself for the record, please.
Bowden, Middleton Police Department.
Thank you. Is Mr. Manis here?
I don't believe.
Record show that he was served.
Yeah, that's correct.
Chair makes a motion to approve by default.
Second.
Have a second. Any discussion on the motion? Hearing none, all in favor of the motion indicate by saying aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Hearing none, the motion carries. Thank you for your appearance, and if there's anything else that comes up, we'll notify you. Thank you. Tennessee Department of Safety Highway Patrol, your backup reference, Brandon McGowan.
Yes, sir.
Let me ask, is Mr. McGowan here? Okay, thank you. Go ahead, Sergeant.
Trooper McGowan graduated from the Tennessee Highway Patrol Cadet School, and as a condition of continued employment was required to attend and successfully pass the Federal Motor Carrier Safety Administration Part A Level 3 Inspector Certification Test. Former Trooper McGowan was unable to successfully pass that test after 3 attempts, I believe, and as a result of that inability to pass, the probationary employee was terminated.
Sergeant, Mr. McGowan did graduate the regular Department of Safety Academy. Is that correct?
Yes, sir.
Do you know in your record if Mr. McGowan had been a former certified law enforcement officer anywhere?
In my records, I don't have that. No, sir.
Okay. Any questions? And I know that being that so it's my understanding, Sergeant, that Mr. McGowan went through the general cadet class with no issues in the regular cadet class. Is that your understanding?
Correct. That's my understanding, yes, sir.
And then in order to stay on with the Department of Safety through the continuing education of the curriculum, He was required to do the Federal Motor Carrier Safety Administration's certification, I guess, to do level 1, 2, and 3 inspections of commercial carriers.
Level 3 inspection.
Level 3 inspections. And due to the contract with the Department of Safety, if you don't make that grade, then the department, under my policy, is required to have a change. Is that your understanding? Okay.
Given 2 opportunities to take the test, and he failed both of those. He then took the class again a second time, and then was given the test for a third time, and failed it that third time.
Okay. Any other disciplinary issues or anything related at all? This is solely just a testing matter over that
Solely a testing matter.
on this certification?
Yes, sir.
Okay. Any questions of the members of the board for the Department of Safety?
Commissioner Chair here. Just as a point of clarification, just so I understand, this is something that's required of all troopers, is that correct?
Yes, sir.
Okay. And it has to be done within the first year of employment, or?
Yes, sir. There's a time frame. I don't know exactly sure what the time frame is, but that is a requirement for it to be successfully passed, and he was unable to pass it.
Any other questions?
Commissioner Isbell, so is it safety's policy to submit to post to decertification even on a testing situation if there's no disciplinary issues or there's nothing else surrounding this gentleman's employment, correct? But it's safety's policy?
It's my understanding, and I'm assuming this, and I know that's dangerous, but it's that I was given this to present, and this that it is their policy to present all terminations.
Thank you.
Any other questions of Department of Safety? Commissioner Wagner.
I don't know if I've got the HR record on that. I'm trying to see in my note.
Commissioner Cherry, I have one other question. As far as his duties as a law enforcement officer, this test only involves inspection of
Commercial
carriers.
vehicles. Yes, sir.
Okay. So as far as any other duties, that this wouldn't impact on his ability to be a patrolman or to function as a police officer in another capacity, would it?
I don't think it would interfere with that.
Okay. Great. Thank you.
Anything else from the board? Thank you, Sergeant. Mr. McGowan, if you would. And if you would identify yourself for the record.
Brandon McGowan.
Thank you. Mr. McGowan, I'll go on and start out. I don't recall in my years of being up here of having a case like this, but can you tell us what you're doing now?
Right now, I'm working with Montgomery County Sheriff's Office. As of right now, I've been on medical leave due to some health issues. I'm due to go back beginning of September.
Okay. What duties are you doing there?
Patrol.
On patrol?
Yes, sir.
Okay. Is he in good standing with Acadius and service? Okay. Was Montgomery County aware of your pending case from safety coming here at the time you were hired?
Yes, sir. I did talk to my Lieutenant James Dorico, and I did advise him this once I got the letter by email.
You're recognized, Commissioner Wright.
Commissioner Wright, make a motion for no action.
Have a motion for no action.
Second.
Have a second from Commissioner Isbell.
Point of discussion. How long have you been a certified police officer?
And end of October, technically, since October 2021, when we actually left the academy and at the graduation.
You graduated in October 21 as a certified police officer.
Yes, sir.
And this is a training issue, I guess, is what we're talking about.
It's an additional requirement.
Yeah, okay.
When I think Commissioner Wagner, when Department of Safety merged, and I think we have a former Department of Safety employee on the board, but I would assume that when Commercial Motor Vehicle and the Tennessee Highway Patrol merged those units, then that caused these certifications to go entirely across the Department of Safety's patrol division to where it used to be kind of isolated to the commercial unit within safety. But now all new recruits or cadets are required to do this. So he's technically in good standing as a post-certified officer. It's just under the Department of Safety's policy to complete employment with the Tennessee Highway Patrol, you must pass this required training. Is that your understanding, Commissioner Wright?
That is correct.
I'll second the motion.
We'll think we got a second. We'll give you a third on that.
Okay.
Any other discussion on the motion? Hearing none, all in favor of the motion to deny any action in this request of safety indicate by saying aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Motion carries, sir. Good luck to you, and just understand the Department of Safety, these guys it's just part of their requirement to do this, nothing personal.
Yes, sir, no problem.
All right, good luck to you.
Thank you.
Have any representatives of Clinton Police Department? Reference Christopher McKinney. If you could come to the podium, identify yourself, and give us your case synopsis, please.
Carl Bailey with Clinton Police Department. Former Officer McKinney was terminated after an internal affairs investigation. GPS blocker. Block your location. He's felt at the end of the IA, he felt he was micromanaged. Also, we use digital ally cameras for video evidence with the evidence of the crime occurred.
You would, sir, if you would hit the speak button and maybe it'll stay on.
Oh, there you go. Can you
Yes.
hear me now? We use a digital ally video cameras for evidence in car video, and with that GPS blocker inside there, it also blocked the GPS coordinates on the video.
So is that is there a written policy that no other foreign devices are to be used?
And there's a policy, there's no addition to any equipment. You can't work on it, can't add to it, can't modify it in any way.
And how long had this been going on?
That, it was brought to my, I don't know exactly how long, it was brought to my attention, I believe it was September 7th.
And was the officer found to be in possession of this blocking unit?
Yes, he was. He actually came in, we waited till he came to work, and he was plugged in while he was on a call in north end of town. And that's where I went to the call and removed it from the vehicle.
Did y'all take that device as evidence?
No, we took it, photographed it, and returned it to him because he had purchased it.
Hey, was there any, being that this was possibly a destruction of evidence case, was this any request of TBI or the District Attorney General's office to look into this case?
Not that I'm aware.
Okay. So he was just terminated for violation of department policy on how to handle his equipment. Is that correct? Okay. Any other questions from the board?
Commissioner Wright, I have just a couple.
Yes, you're recognized.
Lieutenant, he said a while ago in the beginning that he said he was being micromanaged, so he did come out and admit to it in the end.
In the end, when I first made contact with him, I asked him what this is in your car. He said it was a Wi-Fi booster, and then it was a gift from his father that it was to block 5G. And then at the end of the investigation, it was just that he felt that Lieutenant Miller was micromanaging by knowing where his location was.
So he was not truthful about it right out of the gate. Thank you.
Any other questions?
Didn't we deal with this before?
I think this has been on our agenda a time or two, if I recall, and I think we've had maybe for the last year or so. I think there's been some continuances on
We
this.
just continued it.
I think so, and now I think it's finally here.
I have just one other question for
Yeah,
Lieutenant.
you're recognized, General Cherry.
Thank you. If I could, did you have any evidence or any indication that he was going to any places unauthorized or diverting from his duties while he was while this GPS blocker was basically putting him in the dark?
No, sir.
Okay, so it's just
Didn't know where he was.
okay. So it's just a matter of he was using this device, and he's not supposed to be using that device because you want to know where he is when you want to know where he
It
is.
is an officer safety also.
Okay, great. Thank you.
Thank you, General. Anything else from the members? Okay. Thank you, Lieutenant. Representatives or Mr. McKinney? If you could identify yourself for the record, please.
Good afternoon. Wesley Clark from Mr. Chris McKinney. We are waiving our right to a preliminary hearing in this matter and would request a full hearing with the necessity for witness testimony and medical evidence that would aid the Commission in rendering a fair and impartial decision in this case.
And being that this case is, I think, since will be a year September, how long have you been assigned or retained on this case?
I've been retained for just over a month.
We have. It seems that if my recollection's right, this case has had that same story here a time or two before this board.
It's my understanding there was a previous attorney that is an elderly gentleman with whom my client experienced difficulty in communicating, and I'm uncertain as to the extent with which that attorney communicated with the board.
Okay.
I understand that this request for a waiver and full hearing, this is the first request for a full hearing that has been made. I don't believe that's been addressed.
Understand that. And to finish my point is, what is your client doing now?
He is receiving treatment and awaiting the outcome of these proceedings. He's not working as a police officer.
He's not working as a law enforcement officer anywhere right now?
That is correct.
Okay. Is he working at all?
I am unable to answer that question.
Okay. Any questions or discussion? We have. It's natural. It's natural. It's natural. Let me direct over to this side of the room for a minute.
I think that's a sign that my request should be granted.
Yes. And we may have to get, if there is, do we know where we would be with this case on the docket in the future? And I know we have a long line of formal hearings. I mean, I'm sure we're looking at close to a year out.
That's tough. We'd request the earliest hearing we can get.
Well,
whatever it is, it'll be.
you would have been a year ahead of time. And it's not your fault, but we've got several more cases pending, and there's only so many of us, and we only get to meet so often. But it's a long list, and you will go to the bottom of that list. So we just want council to be prepared of where you would be with that, and.
I understand.
Yes,
there's just no way that we could adequately present Mr. McKinney's case without calling a medical expert to testify and present evidence.
Well, I'll ask you this. I mean, is it cause him a medical problem to put some kind of GPS blocker in his car that would cause a violation of department policy? Can you answer that?
Yes, I can. I can say that Mr. McKinney's behavior is explained by complex post-traumatic stress disorder, and that's the missing puzzle piece of this situation. Obviously, it's very bizarre to put a GPS tracker in a car. There's got to be some explanation, and we submit that it's a medical explanation, and it could be remediated with appropriate treatment and fitness for duty evaluation.
Okay. So, well, at any rate, we have a request by council. Is there any... do we need to take a vote on that, or
Commissioner Wright, I'll just make a motion. We move this to the earliest available formal in line.
In line. Have a motion to transfer it over for full board. There, here, second.
Second.
General Cherry seconded. Any discussion on the
Yeah.
motion?
I have a discussion.
You're recognized.
This is Wagner. He's talking about PTSD. He's certified now, or is he?
Well, that was kind of my point. Is do we need to put in make a suspension motion, because if he applies for a job today somewhere and
Still certified.
he's still certified, but if we're in a mental health issue or we're in a controversy issue,
I mean, I want him to have his hearing, but at
Right.
the same time, I got to be.
are you wanting to make a friendly amendment to amend the motion to put him in suspension until that time? You're recognized, General.
Dennis Gregory again. I want to make sure we're clear about suspended. We've used the term suspended status, so that's to allow the matter to just be essentially held in abeyance, sort of like a suspended sentence. So there's no way to suspend the certification absent either the decertification as part of an informal, a decertification as part of a formal, or a summary suspension. That is sort of a third option that I don't think we've probably seen or done here in a
Maybe
while.
they would agree to that.
And that's a great question. In fact, we would agree. The medical professional that we would call to testify recommends that Mr. McKinney not serve as a law enforcement officer until he's been certified to be fit for duty. And so we don't have any problem with agreeing to not serve as a police officer during the pendency of these proceedings.
Would you make that? You're making that a matter of the record for his safety and the safety of others until that he not apply for a law enforcement job until we can reconcile this matter?
Yes.
Commissioner, if I may point out that Mr. McKinney has been separated for more than 6 months. So if he were to go to another department, he would have to have a psychological showing that he passed the fitness for duty. So essentially the same thing that you're asking for has already been done due to his separation from the Clinton Police Department.
Okay. All right. So we just.
I think it's his benefit that he asked for that.
Yes, and we want to give him his day for formal hearing. We just want to make sure we dot our I's and cross our T's and make sure that we're correct. That's why we have our legal counsel sitting over here to keep us in
Whoever
check.
made the recommendation, if they want to alter it or add in the language I was talking about, it's fine with me.
Okay.
Attorney's agreement that they're not going to do it, as well as he would have to have it already. So.
Okay. All right. So we're basically going to stick with your original motion. Who was the second on that?
General Cherry.
General Cherry was second on that. All right. Any other discussion? Hearing none, all in favor of the motion indicate by saying aye. Opposed? Motion carries. Staff will get in touch with you, sir, with a formal hearing. So they'll have to go back and look at where they're at on the dockets, okay? Thank you for your time, sir. I think we're at the top of page 5, Metro Police Department, Timothy McVeigh. Could identify yourself for the record, please.
Good afternoon, Lieutenant Alfredo Arevalo with Metro Nashville Police Department. Alfredo is A-L-F-R-E-D-O. Arevalo is A-R-E-V-A-L-O. Timothy McVeigh was hired on as a probationary officer for our department. He was required to complete the FTO program. During the FTO program, he had several performance deficiencies, of which culminated a day where he lost some property. It was decided to go ahead and let him go while he was on probationary status. An investigation was later completed. It didn't determine there was any type of malice or intent in connection to that evidence that was lost. So that's where we're at now.
So if you could, there was some evidence lost while he was on probation.
Him and his FTO responded to the hospital for an overdose case, recovered some marijuana and some fentanyl off the individual. Later, when they went to turn it into property, no one could find the evidence. It was through body cam video. It was determined he's the one that left the evidence back at the hospital. That, in connection with other performance deficiencies, it was decided to let him go.
Okay. Is he here today?
He is.
Okay. Any questions of the board?
Commissioner Wright.
Commissioner Wright, you recognize.
So he was under the supervision of an FTO at the time?
Yes.
Questions?
I have just a couple questions.
General Chair, you recognize.
Thank you. How long was he with the department at the time that this evidence was lost?
I'll have to defer to him, but it would have still been on the FTO program, so it would have been anywhere from 6 to 8 months.
I'm assuming just by what you've said that there were some other issues aside from the loss of these narcotics. Is that right?
Nothing more related to things that he was already on his second or third rotation that he should have already learned in his previous rotations, things like searching and things like that, where they decided that maybe he wasn't where he needed to be at that point in time. So by the time it got to this incident, they kind of just decided to let him go while he was still in probationary status.
Just because it's simpler for the department, or?
Well, he wasn't under civil service protection yet. So until he completes his FTO program, that's when he gets civil service protection, and it's a lot harder to dismiss somebody. So they decided to dismiss him while he was still in his probationary status.
Okay, thank you.
Commissioner Isbell.
Commissioner Isbell.
Do you know how much time elapsed from the time that the evidence was collected to when it was discovered that it had been forgotten or lost?
It was that same day. It was back on April 11th of this year. They responded to the hospital. They booked the individual, or they went to go get warrants for the individual, and then decided to go ahead and turn the property in while they're there, since it's a property drop box. And that's when the FTO discovered that the Mr. McVeigh had left the narcotics back at the hospital. He was terminated 2 days later. An investigation was done after the fact, just to ensure there wasn't anything else, and that investigation determined, again, there wasn't anything malice behind it. It was just a deficiency on his part.
Do you know if the FTO was disciplined in any way?
No, she was not.
Okay, thank you.
Any other questions? Thank you, sir. Mr. McVeigh, thank you. If you could identify yourself for the record, please.
Good afternoon, Commissioners. My name is Jack Burden. I'm here representing Mr. McVeigh. A couple of things to add to the information that you've been provided. He had actually been out for a period of time. He was on his second rotation, his FTO rotation with the department after successfully completing the academy. He had been out due to some medical issues and some medication. He had come back. He is now off of that medication. He's never been interviewed concerning the evidence. His view of what occurred is a little bit different than what his FTO's was, as I'm sure you can imagine. And he is now seeking employment with the Montgomery County Sheriff's Department. It is in that process, but this notification has kind of stalled that until that's complete. And he is asking that his post-certification not be pulled at this time. Montgomery County's looking at him. They want him as a deputy, and he should be allowed to do that, to continue his training, since he was under supervision of an FTO at the time this occurred.
Thank you. Any questions of the board? Commissioner Wagner.
Since this happened in, I guess, in April, is that what you're saying? He's been unemployed?
Yes.
So he hadn't worked anywhere else?
Yes.
When did you apply with Montgomery County?
With Montgomery County.
You did that immediately? And you told them what the issues were?
Yes, sir. As soon as I received notification from Post, I called, let them know.
captain.
That's where you're at. You just got your application submitted, and it's just sort of been on hold till we get this. Okay.
I think we have staff investigator that wants to make a comment. You're recognized.
Evan Creed, Post Commission. I did get a phone call from Montgomery County Sheriff's Department. They did have Mr. McVeigh as an applicant, and they are waiting for this proceeding to find out what they should do with him. So they are interested in hiring him, knowing the background of what's going on. This was set for a couple months later on the road, but I had it put up to this agenda date just to get it facilitated to get the man job if the commission decides to.
Thank you. Any other questions?
Just
General
one,
Cherry.
I'm sorry. Officer McVeigh, could you kind of give us your thumbnail sketch of what happened with the loss of this evidence, just to kind of hear your side of that story?
Yes, sir. On the day, April 11th, we responded to the hospital for the suspect. The body-worn camera footage will show that the FTO was not happy with my body search of the suspect. She went back and redid it, recovered the supposed evidence, and then when she handed it to me, she just said, "Be careful with it." She didn't tell me put it in my pocket. She didn't tell me to secure it. She just said simply, "Be careful." In lieu of any formal training about evidence handling, I reverted back to my previous commission job, where we don't put things in our pockets. We keep them visible, where we can see them at all times. So the body-worn camera footage will show the evidence in full disclosure out in the open. Many times as I conversed with the suspect, while the FTO left me alone with him for over an hour. Following the FTO's guidance, I took the suspect to the side to give him his phone call to allow him to call his wife before we hooked him up and took him to jail. While I was doing that, I observed my FTO walk out with his belongings. So she had a big armful of his stuff. I assumed she grabbed the evidence which was on top of his pile of belongings, and I didn't question it until we got to the jail, and she said, give me the evidence. And I said, I don't have the evidence in my pockets. It was with his belongings. So that's my synopsis of what happened.
I guess it's fair to assume that you didn't have the best relationship in the world with your FTO. Is that correct?
My relationship with her was better than my relationship with my second FTO. But I was only with her for 2 weeks.
Any other questions? The wishes or thoughts of the committee.
Commissioner Wright, I would like to ask the department of, if you don't mind stepping back up, why they saw Mr. McVeigh to take the sole responsibility for it being lost and not any on the FTO. Was there anything in y'all's investigation that showed it was otherwise?
Our office didn't complete the investigation. It was done down at the precinct level, but I wouldn't be able to know what their thought process was, other than seniority, her length of time in the department versus the FTO. According to her statement, I believe she said she thought he'd put it in his pocket or something like that. But I don't have any position on that.
Understand. Commissioner Wright, I'll make a motion for no action.
Second.
I have a motion from Commissioner Wright for no action. I have a second by Commissioner Isbell for no action. Any discussion on the motion presented? Hearing none. All in favor of the motion indicate by saying aye. Aye. Opposed? Hearing none. Motion carries. Thank you. University of Memphis Public Safety, Marcus Nolan. Is Marcus Nolan here? Is one of you Marcus Nolan? Is Marcus Nolan here?
No, sir.
I think this is the one that had the death in the family that they told us about.
Is this the one that called for...
This is the one who sent me an email regarding a death in the family. I believe his
If they know them, if they might have forgot them today.
Kevin Krieb, post. Mr. Nolan contacted me through email yesterday stating he had a death in his family. I believe his wife's father passed away. They haven't made arrangements yet and just wanted to get this continued because of all the stress.
Okay. Is this a first setting? I'll make a motion to continue. Have a second. Any discussion?
Just a little bit of discussion. I know University, let's see, this will be the only one we have of them in it. I mean, I thought it was Memphis Police Department. No discussion.
No discussion. We're going to continue it. Do you have any statements reference that? I will allow it.
Derek Myers, Chief of Police, University of Memphis. He was in his probationary period, and I had a meeting scheduled with him to release him for basically excessive absences. He was leave without pay several times. Before I could do that, we got him on camera stealing from a food kiosk, and so that was added to the reason for letting him go.
Well, we'll reset it and respectfully ask that you look for that and make you another 3.5 hour trip back this direction.
Yes, sir, will do.
And I'm sure you'll find somewhere good to eat between here and there, Chief. So anyway, we have a motion on the floor. All in favor of the motion indicate by saying aye. Aye. Opposed? Hearing none. We'll notify you of another date, sir. Thank you.
Thank you, sir.
All right. Department of Safety, Russell Peters. I see Department of Safety. Is Russell Peters here? Does anybody see Russell Peters? If there's no Russell Peters, I will go ahead and save safety a lot of paper pushing and chasing at the podium and make a motion approved by default. Have a second by General Cherry. Any discussion?
Commissioner Ryan, I'm not able to pull it up on mine. Can we just tell me what the general
on
what he was
Peters
terminated for? All mine's print's too small to read.
You want to give us a quick synopsis so the board would kind of know what we're looking at?
Yes, sir. Sergeant Toby Carter, Department of Safety. On November 24, 2019, Mr. Peters and his wife were involved in a domestic violence incident at their residence. Mr. Peters allegedly assaulted her with a slapjack, and he was arrested. On December 4th, he resigned in lieu of termination. And since then, the charges have been expunged from his record.
Been expunged from his record?
Yes.
How long ago did this happen?
November 24, 2019.
Okay, so he's had enough time to be under court supervision for a year and all that good stuff. Okay. Any questions? All right. Do we have a motion in a second? Okay, we're still in discussion. All in favor of the motion indicate by saying aye. Aye. Opposed? Hearing none, motion carries. Thank you, Mr. Carter. Gallatin Police Department, Barrett Reed. Is Mr. Reed here today? Again,
I was told that he was not.
Okay. Again, the chair will ask for Barrett Reed. No Barrett Reed. I'll make a motion to approve by default.
Second.
Have a second. Any questions on the motion? Hearing none, all in favor of the motion indicate by saying aye. Aye. Opposed? Motion carries. Thank you, sir.
William Sorrells, Assistant Chief, Gallatin PD. Sorrells.
Memphis Police Department and Dwayne Maurice Smith.
Commissioner, Chairman Parton, Mr. Smith, that was continued at the request of Attorney Tim Taylor. That should have been moved and should not have been on the agenda.
Okay. Moving on to UT Knoxville Police Department and Ashley Stonerock. Is Miss Stonerock here? Was she properly served?
Yes,
properly served.
Kevin Creed Post, I spoke to her coming here.
She's making this quite easy then. Motion to approve by default. Have a second by Commissioner Wagner. Any discussion on the motion? Hearing none, all in favor of the motion indicate by saying aye. Opposed? Motion carries. You're relieved. Thank you. I think we're over to page 5. Hamilton County, do you got comments on that, Mr. Director, on Hamilton County Sheriff's Office? Moving fast, I know.
No, you're good. I do. This is Ralph Bellow. And Hamilton County had submitted a request to rescind the decertification action against Mr. Wilkie. They submitted a letter, and I'll just go ahead and read it to you. It says, I'm writing to rescind our previous request for the decertification of Daniel Wilkie. Our agency has a new sheriff who does not wish to pursue decertification. Since the initial request, many factors have changed, and Mr. Wilkie has been cleared of all criminal charges. We would respectfully request that the commission not pursue the decertification of Mr. Wilkie. I do believe that we have also spoken to Mr. Wilkie's attorney, and he has some pending federal litigation as well.
Is that federal litigation? Do we know by the attorney's admission, is that civil or is it in a violation of civil rights from the Department of Justice?
Because I recall he spoke with Mr. Gregory down there. I think it was civil, I believe, wasn't it?
That was my understanding.
It was civil.
It was civil, like, you're likely a 1983 action or violation of federal civil rights allegations.
Due to the late request, we just decided it was already on the agenda. We put it before the board and see what you wanted to do with it.
Is there somebody else here to speak? Identify yourself, please.
My name is Attorney Jim Exum, EXUM. This is Daniel Wilkie.
Oh, okay. I didn't know you were here. Sorry. What you can answer my question then? Are you in a civil lawsuit, or are we looking at possible federal charges for violation of civil rights?
These are civil lawsuits, assuming from 1983 litigation. So there is no DOJ investigation that I'm aware of.
Okay.
Really
Okay. Based off what staff has said, that Hamilton County is trying to rescind their request. Is there any other questions or comments on that? If not, I'll make a motion for the request to take no action, to deny. I guess that'd be the way to handle this, is just to make a motion to deny. Have a second from General Cherry. Any discussion? All in favor of the motion indicate by saying aye. Opposed? Motion carries. Thank you.
Thank you.
He'd be telling us something. Irony. Memphis Police Department and Roger Williams. Is Roger Williams here?
I don't believe he is.
Well, I will make a motion to approve by default.
If I could.
You want the motion and second before you mess it up?
No, I want to explain to the commission why we're here.
You probably don't have to, as long as I get you. You've applied for decertification. I'm giving you a gift horse here, and you're.
Yes, sir.
I've got a motion and a second.
Yes, sir.
Well,
that's fine.
Okay. Well, is this the same Roger Williams that you asked to rescind the request?
It is the same one.
Okay. Yeah, they had sent an email yesterday, I believe, asking to rescind the request of this decertification request of Mr. Williams.
They want to rescind it.
I was going to give the commission based on the research I've done with the commission and their previous hearings about some of the questions that were presented to the Memphis Police Department in prior hearings, the reason for that. And it's been a timeliness issue.
Yes, sir.
If the commission is not concerned with that in this case, then certainly we can go forward.
Stand by. We do have a motion in a second, so let's look here for a second.
Advisor, Memphis.
Request from the department on December of 21, is that right? Resigned in lieu of termination.
Mr. Ryan, I'm just kind of curious why the department would want to rescind it.
Well, I think that'll be who knows?
If I could explain.
Go ahead. Carry on.
The timeline for this case is really old. The charges were brought against Mr. Williams, departmental charges, in November of 2020. Hearing was scheduled in January. He resigned before the hearing. Notice was given to post of his change of status in January of that year, of January of 22. December of 21, that was when the request was made almost a year later to decertify him. I think the commission, if I'm correct, received notice of that request in July of 2022. And here we are another year later until the matter came to the docket. We certainly believe that everybody is entitled to swift justice at the Memphis Police Department. And it's been almost 3 years since the charges were brought. That's our only concern. We certainly stand by our position that given the allegation in this case that he should not be a certified police officer. But to my knowledge, unless Post have some other information, he has not worked as a police officer since in the state of Tennessee. Is that correct?
That I can't answer. They might be able to pull that up in my CADIS. But going back, and I don't want to get off topic, but being with all the national light that the city of Memphis has gotten, it seems like we've been bombarded. That's circumstantial. That's just conversation that's come up here. I'm glad that you and your department are going back and cleaning up some issues. But if somebody needs to be decertified, then they need to be brought forth quickly and swiftly. We had a case where it looked like, yes, it had been pulled out of archives and sent up here. That's the way it looked like to us. So that's what's brought that up.
I assure you that, and a lot of that going back to 2020, COVID,
sure,
different things happen.
Right.
But given the timeline, still 3 years, I'm sure we would all agree is probably not a swift process, and we want to rectify that. But we do believe that Mr. Williams should be decertified. It should have just happened faster.
Well, in all due respect, and also you can see just in the time you've been here today, you've seen people as soon as they leave, they go across the river somewhere and get another job, and creating problems possibly in another state, particularly in your geographical location. They can go somewhere real quick, and fortunately we've got things in place now to catch that. But we're not trying to be hard on our brothers and sisters at the Memphis PD. It's just that we're in the national spotlight right now, and this board doesn't like it.
Yes, sir.
And it's not everybody's fault, but it's just we're wanting to be transparent, and we're wanting people to understand that we're going to do what's presented to us up here. And if this particular officer, from what I'm reading here, I don't like what I'm reading.
No, sir.
So I would like to keep my motion.
Yes, sir.
To decertify. If that's
no objection.
No objection from Memphis today.
Yes, sir.
Any other discussion on the motion?
Just one fine point.
Yes, sir.
This officer was served, and so he had an opportunity to be here. He just didn't show up, right?
That is correct.
Okay, then I'll sleep very well tonight.
That's always good to know with General Cherry. All right. Any other?
Just one final thing to
yes,
let the commission know that the Memphis Police Department is committed to making sure that our officers are fully trained, treated fairly, and that officers that should not be on the street, we certainly want to move in a efficient manner to decertify them.
We totally understand that, sir, and we know that you're shorthanded. We know that this is not a sought-after profession anymore. Nobody's beating our doors down to do this kind of work. And we know that your internal affairs unit does their due diligence to investigate these matters. And it takes time. We just, maybe we all overreact sometimes.
Yes, sir.
But anyway, we appreciate your due diligence. We appreciate all of you being here today. And with that, I'll call for the vote. All in favor of the motion for decertification or by default indicate by saying aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Hearing none, motion carries. Thank you. Tennessee Highway Patrol, Department of Safety, Jacob Weiser. Is Mr. Weiser here today?
I believe that Mr. Weiser indicated to our staff that he would not be appearing today.
And that leads me to make a motion to approve by default. Have a second by General Cherry. Any discussion? I think this was related to a okay, I was just reading here. All right, all in favor of the motion indicate by saying aye. Opposed? Hearing none, motion carries. Sergeant, thank you for your time today, sir. You're doing a fine job.
I appreciate that.
Yes, sir.
Right.
Any other business? If not, any comments or discussion? I'm glad we got to use our chief legal counsel today a little bit. If not, we'll entertain a motion to adjourn and be back here for 9:30 in the morning. Everybody get up and leave. Thank you.
Commend you for how you
Well,
unless you have none, and then I'll start setting some decertifications for it. But according to